Chatham Journal. I got Asheebo Rojas with the Chatham News and Record. Thank you for waiting for us to start. We're spending a couple of minutes just making sure we went over our agenda items. And so, again, we're going to go through with Asheebo coming, what stories he's got in this week's Chatham News and Record newspaper. Also, thank you to everyone who continues to watch us every week. Last week, we had over 630 folks watch us. Thank you very much. We're also going to touch on last week's scores and results. Asheebo is going to name his athlete of the week. Also, spring sports, as everyone knows, is in full force: baseball, softball, soccer, track, and lacrosse. So we're going to kick it off here. Let me just take this off. I should have this prepared ahead of time. There we go. I'm going to do this, and we're going to hand it off to Mr. Asheebo.
Yeah, so we got plenty of cool stories coming out in the paper this week. You kind of just chronicling all the things that happened in Chatham County last week as far as sports. We got coverage from the Special Olympics North Carolina cheer competition that was held at Seaforth on Saturday. And you can read about that in the paper. And we also have, of course, our roundup of all the scores and results from last week. We have a feature on a youth basketball team that had a special season in honor of one of their late coaches that passed away last April. And then we also have a list of all the winter all-conference selections for all the winter sports here in Chatham County. So check out all the Chatham County names that received postseason honors there. And then we also have a story on Coach Mitch Johnson leaving Northwood football. He's going to a program out in Eastern North Carolina, and his hiring will be made official in a few weeks. So then we'll let you know where he's headed. But yeah, Coach Johnson's leaving after the season, made the playoffs with a 7-4 record, and we wish him the best on his next journey, his next step in his career. And then as far as scores from last week in our roundup, if Gene, is okay if I go ahead and get into that?
Yes, it is. I was just going to add, if somebody wants to, if you're watching us live during the live stream right now between 12 and 12:30, feel free to leave a comment or a question in the comment section on the Chatham Journal Facebook page. I should have said that earlier, so sorry for interrupting, but Asheebo, going back to you.
Yeah, so scores and results from last week, and then starting with baseball, we had Northwood sweeping Bartlett Yancey, beating them 12-2 on the 19th, and then 14-0 on Thursday. And then Seaforth, they beat Chatham Central the first time on March 19th, 4-3. But on Thursday, the Bears even the series 2-1, and that one was a pitcher's battle. Great defensive showing from the Bears, and then they put Joaquin in at the final inning to get the strikeout and win that game. And then the Bears also beat South Davidson 7-2 on March 20th, and Seaforth, they lost to Cedar Ridge 11-6 that week. And then the Bears also beat Graham twice on Monday, 16-0 and 19-2. So there were some scores from Seaforth and Chatham Central. And then Jordan Matthews, they got swept by Northmore, losing 9-7 on March 19th and 3-1 Thursday. Chatham Charter, they continue to dominate the Central Tar Heel 1A conference by beating Southern Wake Academy 21-2 on the 19th, and Triangle Math and Science 17-0 Friday. And then we also have our first baseball softball power rankings. Stay tuned for that later on. I'll get into that just after we finish the results from last week. But also going into softball, we have Jordan Matthews coming back down 10-0 in the middle of the third inning to beat Bartlett Yancey in extra innings on the 19th. And I think we talked a little bit about this game last week. And then after that one, the Jets also beat Seaforth 17-9 on Thursday, and Cardinal Gibbons 11-2 Monday. And then Chatham Central, they beat Bartlett Yancey 9-1 on Thursday. And they also beat Southeast Alamance 3-0 Monday. And then Seaforth, they lost to Southeast Alamance 11-7 on the 19th, but they beat Graham 22-6 Monday. Northwood on March 20th, 5-3. And Chatham Charter, they lost to Uwharrie Charter 11-1 on March 20th, but they beat Lee Christian 15-0 the next day. And then going into girls soccer, just to run through those scores, we have Seaforth beating Riverside Durham 2-0 on the 20th, and also beating Northwood 4-0 on Monday. And then Northwood, they did beat Bartlett Yancey on the 20th 10-1, but they lost to Southern Alamance the next day 4-2. And then Jordan Matthews, They got into a draw with Northmore 1-1 on the 20th, but they also lost to Southeast Alamance 8-3 on Monday. And Chatham Charter lost to Clever Garden School 4-1 on March 20th. And then our lacrosse teams, boys and girls at Seaforth and Northwood. For boys, we had Seaforth winning 3 straight games during the week, beat Northwood 7-1, Eastern Alamance 12-4, Southeast Alamance 21-2, and then Northwood on the boys' side lost to Orange 14-1 on Thursday, but they won over Williams 7-6 Friday. And then on the girls' side, we had Seaforth beating Carborough 13-6 on March 20th, and Northwood, they went undefeated during the week by beating Wakefield 17-16, Corinth Holders 15-14, and yeah, that was the Chargers week for girls lacrosse. And then boys tennis, we had Seaforth. They suffered their second loss of the season on the 19th by losing to Jordan 9-0, but they bounced back and beat Chatham Central Thursday and returned the favor 9-0. And then Northwood, they beat Northmore 5-4 on the 19th, but lost to Orange 6-3 on Thursday. And Chatham Charter beat Jordan Matthews 9-0 on March 20th, and the Knights then beat Eno River 5-4 the next day. So that's summary of boys tennis for the week. And in track and field, we had a big one over the weekend with the Seaforth Invitational. And that one, you can read all the first place finishers from Chatham County schools in the paper for that meet in the roundup. And then also, too, I wanted to take a look at last night's baseball and softball scores before we get into discussing the first baseball and softball power rankings. We have Seaforth beating Northwood last night 12-5. We had Chatham Central losing to Raleigh Homeschool 7-2. Jordan Matthews losing to beating Southeast Alamance 7-4, and Chatham Charter beating Ascend Leadership 18-0 for baseball. And then for softball, we had Chatham Charter getting the forfeit win over Ascend Leadership. Seaforth beat Bartley Yancey 13-2. Chatham Central beat Northwood 12-1, and Jordan Matthews beat Graham 15-0. So those are last night's baseball and softball.
So that's a quick rundown of all the scores. Again, you can pick up the paper, see it right there in print as well. We talked about this last week, but Asheebo's gone ahead and he's having a baseball power rankings. That was pretty popular when Asheebo did the basketball power rankings. There were folks that, a lot of folks agree with it, but every once in a while, folks are like, maybe this person needs to be higher than that person. I know you've been out to several of the baseball games. Northwood, Seaforth, Chatham Central, Chatham JM. What's your power rankings when it comes to baseball?
Yeah, so baseball, starting with that one, pull it up. Baseball. So number one, I've decided to put Chatham Charter up there. They've been pretty much just dominant in their conference so far and on their schedule. They have a big meeting with Seaforth coming up in a couple weeks, I think on April 10th, which is going to be a really interesting game because I have Seaforth at number 2. They've been having a really good season so far here in the early going. And at number 3, I have Northwood, 4 Chatham Central, and 5 Jordan Matthews. Now the thing about the baseball power rankings, I feel like when I was doing this, and I've seen a lot of these teams play already. I feel like it's a lot closer than what than where the placements are. So I feel like at 5, even though Jordan Matthews is 5, Chatham Central is 4, they really have a chance to really move up to me in my eyes, especially as they get further into conference play and get to play each other further down the road. So I think that's where I have it now. Chatham Charter 1, Seaforth 2, Northwood 3, Chatham Central 4, Jordan Matthews 5. Let me know what you think. I think Chatham Charter and Seaforth definitely 2 of the front runners so far. Northwood is having a pretty good season as well. Behind Finn Sullivan, they're a really talented freshmen, and they have some really good other pieces as well that can hit and make some plays on defense. So, yeah, I think it's just a very competitive baseball season so far that we've seen here in Chatham County.
Well, let me ask you this, Asheebo. You have Chatham Central at 4, Seaforth is 2, Northwood has 3. But you and I were at a game, I think it was at Seaforth, where they were playing the Chatham Central Bears, And if I'm not mistaken, the Bears beat them. And folks, you can see Asheebo did some interviews after the game, and he's got those available on his Twitter X file, Asheebo R38. So if they beat Seaforth, last week or the week before, how come they're number 4 and Seaforth's number 2?
Well, Seaforth also beat them the same week, just a couple of days before, right? So I think, like I said, with baseball, it's a lot closer. I think putting Chatham Central at 4, it's not me saying, they're that much, lower as far as talent and, as a team than Seaforth, because like I said, Chatham Central, I think if they can get hot, we saw against Seaforth, they have a really good mound, really, really good set of defensive players, and they're pretty good, at the plate as well. They can hit the ball when they need to. But I think Seaforth, looking at their schedule, their record, some of the teams they beat, they're having a really good season as well. You can't deny that. And I think, between Seaforth, I just think any kind of with baseball this year, it's kind of any given night a little bit here so far at the beginning. And I think maybe we'll see some teams separate themselves later on. But right now, it's just really competitive. So don't take the power rankings and where the teams fall too hard right now, just because it's still early.
Well, folks, this is why you need to follow Asheebo, read the newspaper, follow his Twitter account, and watch us on a weekly basis. Because again, I didn't see both of the games, and when I saw when Chatham Central went up against Seaforth, they looked pretty strong. They seemed pretty enthusiastic about things. But as you're right, things change around, and there are some pretty good baseball athletes throughout Chatham County, throughout the various teams. So I'm sure that's going to change. If someone feels strongly, they can voice their opinion. Just put it down in the comments, whether you're doing it live or afterwards. Again, most of the viewership that we have on this live stream comes after we go live. And I understand that folks are working. They want to have an opportunity to take a look at it when maybe they're coming home. So that's the power rankings for baseball for this week. Are you doing one for softball, or are you going to stick with baseball, Justin?
Oh, no, there's also one for softball.
All right, let's do this.
There's also one for softball. And for softball, here's the power rankings. We got number 1, Chatham Central. Number 2, Jordan Matthews. Number 3, Chatham Charter. 4, Northwood. And 5, Seaforth. And here in softball, especially we just talked about the Mid-Carolina 1A, 2A conference. Chatham Central and Jordan Matthews, definitely the 1 and 2 up at the top. And we had Chatham Central playing Northwood last night, and they won 12-1. They're just a really good complete overall team that the Bears have, and Jordan Matthews as well. So definitely looking forward to those two meeting later in the season. And then Northwood and Seaforth. Northwood, they picked up some wins this year. They're in a new conference from last year, and talked to some people from there. And this is a big year for them. Try to see how they fare out with at the 2A level with some of the other counties teams like Chatham Central and Jordan Matthews that are usually pretty good year in and year out. So Northwood, I can see them. They might can move over Chatham Charter a little bit this year, because Chatham Charter is having another good year in the Central Tar Heel 1A conference. Just like the baseball team. So, like I said, the bottom three I can see being fluid a little bit, but Chatham Central and Jordan Matthews just so far just have been the top 2 teams that I've seen.
Yeah, let me ask you this other question. This has to do because I was out at the women's lacrosse game yesterday between Seaforth and Northwood, and I noticed several of the girls on the teams were the ones that also played baseball. What's your take on players doing multiple sports? I think overall that's a good thing. And have you been seeing that as well on the baseball side, where not only are folks playing one sport, but they're also playing other sports? Because I also know on the men's lacrosse team, there's certain players on that lacrosse team that played football and or basketball that are being involved in spring sports. So what's your take on what we're seeing with players or students who participate in multiple sports?
I think it's something that should be encouraged, widespread. I think multiple sports can really help kids, stay in shape throughout the whole year. Also, too, just kind of, continue to build those team skills, leadership skills, especially if they're doing, multiple team sports as well. So I think it's always good to, stay involved. in athletics year round. And I've seen a lot of kids, they do basketball and go right into track, or like you said, football, track, and even do baseball here in the spring. So I think I think kids I think it's a good thing for kids to play multiple sports. Like I said, it's nothing I feel like that's harmful with it. I think it encourages, like I said, staying in shape throughout the year, especially for the football guys who, they spend a whole pretty much a long off season and then play a season. And then, it's a big lull from January until you get back into it in the spring. So I think doing things like track and maybe playing lacrosse will help them stay ready for when spring comes around.
All right, I've got a few more questions for you. Actually, let me ask you this question. This is an Asheebo question. You played football in high school. Did you play any other sports besides football?
Yeah, even my freshman year, I played football, and then in the winter, I did wrestling, and in the spring, I did track. And then a couple of years later down the road, I just cut it down to I think football and track, and then just football my senior year. So yeah, I definitely did try around with different sports, and I had fun doing it, trying different things. Because you can say you've done it, and it just gives you a different perspective. Kind of what the different sports are like, what the different seasons are, and kind of what it takes to be good at different things. And you can apply certain skills from different sports to your main sport as well, right? Because with wrestling, the hand fighting, the physicality, that helps a lot with football, track with speed. So yeah, I enjoyed my experience of doing multiple sports throughout high school.
Well, let me ask you another question on that. Has you participating in all those sports in high school, has that helped you in your sports writing experience?
Oh yes, for sure. I mean, because you learn those terms, right? You learn the terms. As far as wrestling, I kind of when I was covering wrestling over the winter, that kind of reminded me back in freshman year, just kind of reviewing all those moves that I learned those years and the rules of the games. Of the matches and things like that. And as well, I think also too, going to other sports, even if you're not playing those sports, helped a lot in learning other sports like baseball and softball. I have a sister that plays softball. Had friends that played baseball, so I learned the game through them. And yeah, it's just I think like I said, there's plenty of benefits into knowing different sports and playing them as well.
You mentioned the Special Olympics cheerleading. I was out there with you as well. What do you get out of it? I was going to say, I think what I got out of it is the pure joy the participants had in doing the cheerleading routines. And I think also what I found interesting was that based upon the different abilities that the different athletes had, they designed the routines to meet those abilities. I remember there was one where a girl came out in a wheelchair, but for her routine, they were able to get her out of her wheelchair. She was able to perform the routine, and then when they were done, she got back into her wheelchair. So what's your overall sense of what happened on Saturday at Seaforth at the Special Olympics cheerleading?
Yeah, Special Olympics cheerleading event was a great event. I really enjoyed, it's just good vibes. You go in there, everybody's having a good time, and it's a really well ran event with some of the Seaforth cheerleading team and some students that were volunteering. But as far as talking to some of the cheerleaders and some of the coaches, I mean the biggest thing was just having fun, and that was kind of the same thing. Like we didn't care about where we placed. It was just about having fun and encouraging the other teams as well. I mean, it was for a competition. You would think, okay, we want to win. We want to do better than these other teams. But I mean, they were sitting in the crowd cheering on everyone. So it was just a really cool event to kind of showcase what these athletes can do. And I talked to this Special Olympics North Carolina CEO Keith Fishburne, and he said, these types of events, give them confidence in aspects of life, when they're on their own, when it comes to getting the place, getting the job, doing things like this gives them the confidence to go out and show what they can do in front of everybody and a whole bunch of people. And that's, I think, what we saw. And I mean, the athletes, they were into it. Like we saw a team doing flips, we saw them, yelling, dancing, just showing their team spirit. So it was a really cool event.
Yeah, and I know the sheriff was out there with his wife, and they had a favorite team as well.
Yeah.
The sheriff, I mean, the polar plunge that they have earlier in the year goes towards supporting the Special Olympics. So that was neat to see them out there. And I think the sheriff was at the presentation ceremonies as well. So that was a neat thing to see. Anything else on this Special Olympics cheerleading? I was going to say, if they're coming back next year, folks, if you have an opportunity, it's worth saying. It's a great vibe if you go out there to see those folks compete.
Yeah, I was going to say the Chatham County Sheriff's Office did get presented an award for being the top 5. They were the 5th highest fundraiser for for Special Olympics North Carolina for 2023 through things like the Polar Plunge and the Torch Run events as well. So Sheriff Mike Robinson received that plaque, and talking to him, and like you said, yeah, everybody was having a good time, man, and it was just all smiles throughout the whole afternoon.
All right, let's backtrack to fall sports for a second. Let's touch on basketball. Seaforth basketball varsity. Have you heard anything as to the search process or what's going on? Because again, we're getting close to where they are, sometime after spring break, where you're going to need to start doing your preseason prep work.
Yeah, I have not heard anything new since Coach Brunelli stepped down. But like you said, yeah, it is getting close to time to really get in that position filled. So I have to check in on the progress of that.
All right. Anything else we need to cover before you tell us where you're going to be? Because I know you're going to be somewhere tomorrow, but have we missed anything? Oh, yes, we have. We have missed Athlete of the Week.
Yep. Yeah, Athlete of the Week this week is Aiden Allred from Chatham Charter Baseball. He had a really good week during their dominant 3 wins over Southern Wake Academy, Triangle Math and Science, and Lee Christian. In those games, he combined for 9 hits, 11 RBIs, and 2 home runs. And as of Monday, he's leading the Central Tar Heel 1A conference with 5 home runs, and his .733 batting average is 2nd in the conference. So congratulations to Aiden and Chatham Charter Baseball. So, yeah.
You say 733 batting average?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Now I can see why you picked him as your Athlete of the Week. All right. Anything else we need? We covered track. We touched on lacrosse, baseball, softball. You did the softball power rankings and the baseball power rankings. That's coming back again next week. Anything else we need to touch on before we talk about where you're going to be?
Nope. I think we've got it all.
All right. Before we touch on where we're going to be, next week, we're not going to be on, folks. Next week, spring break, Easter break starts for Chatham County Schools. Actually, I think it's early release tomorrow on Thursday, and folks will be out next week. So we will not be around next week, but we'll be back the following week. So don't forget us, same time, same bat channel, for those of you old enough to understand what that means. And Asheebo, where are you going to be over next day or two? Because I don't think there's much of anything going on next week when it comes to high school sports.
Yeah, I'll be at Seaford for their baseball game against Northwood next week. I know coming up in April, we got some big games. Like I said, Chatham Charter and Seaford baseball. Also, I think Woods Charter is playing Seaford's girls soccer. I think on April 16th was another big game I'm looking at going to as well, because getting close. After spring break, we're getting close down the final stretch of the spring season. And teams are trying to get into playoffs and things like that. So definitely we'll get more active in getting out to girls soccer and lacrosse as well as competition heats up.
Yeah, when we come back in 2 weeks, let's also talk about what the potential playoff picture looks like. Because again, Woods has got a strong soccer team. I'm definitely going to try to be at that April 16th game with them in Northwood. When those two teams go up against each other, it's good competition. It's a fun game to watch. So definitely putting that on my schedule. So, folks, I may be at that Seaford Northwood game. Don't know yet, schedule permitting. But other than that, we will see you back, not this coming week, not Easter week, but the week after. Anything else, Asheebo, before we say bye?
Nope. I think we've covered everything.
All right, folks, we're going to end it here.